The religion of the Buddha is not a religion in the conventional sense because it lacks a system of faith, dogmas, and sacred texts. It does not believe in God, souls, or any kind of heaven. It does not require faith, yet it remains a religion. This is a unique phenomenon in the history of human consciousness. No one can compare to the Buddha. He said that God is merely a search for consolation, safety, a refuge. You believe in God not because there is a God, but because you feel vulnerable without that belief. Even if there were no God, you would invent one. That belief stems from your own weakness. It is a projection. Humanity feels limited, powerless, as though victims of circumstance because they do not know where they come from, where they are going, and why they are here. Without God, it is difficult for ordinary people to find meaning in life. They would become chaotic in the absence of God. God is the crutch that supports, comforts, and protects you. They tell themselves, don't worry. God is omnipotent, omniscient, and knows why you are here. He is the creator. He knows why he created the world. You might not know, but he does, so you can trust in him. That gives you peace of mind. Just the idea of God is enough to reassure you that you are not alone, that you are cared for, that this universe is not born of chaos, but everything is in orderly arrangement. The Lord of the universe has arranged everything, and not a single hair falls from your head without his divine will. Everything is planned. You are part of a grand scheme. You might not understand its meaning, but there must be a meaning because God exists. God helps you live joyfully. You can believe that life is not accidental, that there is a purpose, some ultimate goal. God helps you feel secure. But the Buddha said, there is no God. That is the proof you don't know why you are here. It speaks to your helplessness. It proves there is no meaning. The idea of God was created to help us endure this futile life. Imagine you are on a plane and someone says, there is no pilot. Suddenly everyone panics. No pilot? If there is no pilot, you are doomed. Then someone says, this plane doesn't need a pilot because it is controlled remotely. Otherwise, how could it fly? Since everything operates so smoothly, there must be a pilot. Maybe we can't see the pilot. Maybe we are not graced to see, but still, the notion that there is no pilot is false. Those deceiving you are not your friends, but your enemies. Because you are nurtured by falsehood, your life is full of falsehoods. You must live in the atmosphere of truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how bitter it may be. Even if persecuted for the truth, it is worth it. Okay, my friend, are you ready for exploration of 5 non-religious Buddhist truths? The last chapter is my personal favorite, and I'm curious how this feels for you. If you can relate to this content, please hit the like button below and subscribe to this channel so I can update you when a new video comes online. Chapter 1. Be more aware, be more awake, be more courageous. The Buddha stated that the religions of humans are human creations. You are governed by external circumstances. You need to accept the truth at all costs without trying to cover it up, polish it, or distort it to suit your preferences. If it disturbs or disrupts you, be ready to face the consequences. If it wounds your ego, be prepared to die from that wound. If you are destroyed by the truth, be ready to be destroyed. The Buddha was dispassionate, yet he opened an immensely profound door that no one else has succeeded in doing. He allowed no room for your ambitions. He said, be more aware, be more awake, be more courageous. Do not hide behind any beliefs, doctrines, or theories. Take responsibility for yourself. Light the inner candle to see the true nature of things clearly. And when you have the courage to accept the truth, you are truly blessed. This is the Buddha's first teaching. He taught that all systems of belief are harmful. All faiths are barriers. He was neither theistic nor atheistic because, as he said, some believe in God, others do not, but both hold beliefs. He didn't believe in God, but he rejected the viewpoints of those who were atheistic. He said their denial of God was like a mosquito biting an elephant's foot. If you are immature, you will find another idol to replace God. What is history then? For instance, Karl Marx declared, there is no God, yet his history is filled with every conception of God. Why need God? God is the decisive element, the factor behind every phenomenon. God decides what happens and what doesn't. Marx completely abandoned the idea of God, but history became the deciding factor. History became destiny. History controls everything. What is history? Marx claimed that communism was a historical inevitability, and history had decided that communism would prevail, and all was arranged by history. Thus, history became a sort of super-god. Some entity or element must decide. Humans cannot live with a direct reality. Humans cannot accept a reality that is chaotic and random. Humans cannot live with reality without leaning on some idea to give it meaning, appropriateness, and continuity, so that the mind can understand, analyze, and discern cause and effect. Freud completely abandoned the idea of God, yet the unconscious became God. Every human action was determined by the unconscious. Humans were merely puppets in the hands of the unconscious. These are the new labels for God. This is the modern myth. Freud's psychology is a new mythology about God. Old wine in a new bottle. The label has been changed. The old label has been removed, and a new coat of paint has been applied to deceive the unwary. But if you analyze Freud's psychology closely, you will immediately realize that the unconscious plays the role that God once did. Charles Darwin, with his theory of evolution, is another example. Darwin said there is no God, only natural selection, and only the fittest survive. Darwin, Marx, Freud, and Nietzsche are considered pioneers of modernism, sometimes also referred to as structuralism. Nietzsche did not propose a theory to replace God, but he demonstrated that God, truth, are arbitrary ideas that change according to time and place. The person considered the father of modernism is Ferdinand de Saussure, a Swiss linguist. He viewed language as a system where each component is interrelated. He called the words in a language signs, and each sign has two parts. 1, the sound. 2, the meaning or concept. Saussure called the sound the signifier and the concept the signified. So why need God? God had to be created to decide something. History, economy, the unconscious, natural selection. Chapter 2. When your mind is still immature. If humans cannot be free, then changing myths or doctrines is pointless. Whether it's Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, the differences are only superficial. Your mind remains childish, immature. You continuously seek the image of a father figure or someone who can explain everything, who can provide the ultimate answers. According to Jacques Derrida, the father of the philosophical school of deconstruction, Derrida argues that the entire Western metaphysics, from Plato to today, is a futile attempt to find a logos called the transcendental signified that could answer all human queries. But Derrida believes that each time we seek a signified, we discover it is just another signifier pointing to another signified, and if we follow that trail to find that signified, it turns out to be another signifier. Thus, the meaning is always deferred, meaning there can never be one ultimate answer. For further reading, see Louis Marcos, Jim Powell, Deconstruction for Beginners, Glenn Ward, Teach Yourself Postmodernism. The Buddha said, "I am not a metaphysician." A mature soul does not seek whether there are ultimate answers or not. That's why the Buddha said, "I am not a metaphysician." He had no metaphysics. Metaphysics means the ultimate answer to all queries. He never said, "I have explained that mystery." He never said, "Here, I have revealed the truth to you." He said, "The only thing I can do is encourage you, make you desire, help you become alert, aware, alive, so that you live your life fully conscious, filled with light and wakefulness, to the point where all questions dissolve. It's not that you will find one ultimate answer to life. No one has done that. The Buddha utterly rejected metaphysics. He said metaphysics is just a futile search. The first thing he denied was God. Then he denied heaven. He said, "Your heaven is merely your unfulfilled desires, your unachieved instincts, which you project onto an invisible realm, onto an afterlife." In this regard, he was absolutely right. If you were to describe the heavens of Islam, Christianity, Judaism, you would understand why he said so. What is unfulfilled in this life, you project onto the next. But whether in this life or the next, those desires are no different. Dukkha. Who is ever satisfied in life? Indians talk about wish-fulfilling trees called kalpa vriksha. If you sit under one, whatever you wish will happen immediately. The West recently invented instant coffee. India invented the wish-fulfilling tree thousands of years ago, and everyone believed. Sit under it and whatever you wish, you receive. Dream of a fairy, she appears. Want delicacies? They're yours. Nothing is impossible. Just a cursory analysis shows how few are satisfied in life, and everyone spends their life trying to fulfill their desires. Yet how many are content with what they achieve? So they project those desires into the future. Desire by its very nature is insatiable, whether now or in the future. The Buddha said, "The nature of desire is to be unsatisfiable. No matter what you do, you will not be satisfied. That's the intrinsic nature of desire. Desire cannot be fulfilled. Even sitting under a magical tree won't satisfy you. Often you satisfy the things you dream of, but then you dream of something else. The cycle just continues endlessly. The heavens of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Hinduism are just projected desires, unfulfilled wishes, disappointed dreams. Of course, they console many. If not satisfied here, you will be in heaven. Sooner or later, you will return to God. The only requirement is that you pray and believe in Him. Fear God, then your reward later will be immense. The reward, of course, must wait until the afterlife, because the deceitful clergy can't fool you in this life. They know desires are insatiable, so they invented the afterlife. No one knows anything about the afterlife, so it's very easy to be deceived. If someone told you God will fulfill your desires right now, right here, it would be hard to prove, because no one has ever been satisfied right now, right here. Then God would be unmasked. So they had to invent a very cunning plan. They say, "It will happen after this life." Why can't your omnipotent God satisfy your desires right now? Why can't your God create a magical tree right here on earth? Why can't your God do anything while people are still alive? If He can't do anything now, what guarantee is there that He will be able to do something in the afterlife? Chapter 3. What is desire? The Buddha said, "Look into the nature of desire. Observe the movement of desire because it is very subtle. Two things you will realize. One is that desire by its very nature can never be satisfied. And second, once you understand that desire can never be satisfied, it will disappear, and you will no longer crave it. That is the state of peace, stillness, and liberation. That is the state of satisfaction. Desire cannot be satisfied by more desire. It can only be satisfied by transcending satisfaction. Desire is a golden opportunity to understand the workings of the mind, how it operates along with its mechanisms. And when you understand that, there will be transformation. Desire will vanish without a trace. And when there is no more desire, no more demands, you will be satisfied. Not that desire is satisfied, but when you transcend all desires, satisfaction naturally occurs. Desire changes with time and circumstances. Religion says, desire can be satisfied in heaven. Capitalists say, desire can be satisfied in this life. Materialists say, desire can be satisfied here. Just change the social structure, just overthrow the capitalists, so the proletariat can lead. The capitalists must be destroyed. Then desires will be satisfied here. Heaven can be established right on this earth. Capitalism says, you can be fulfilled if you strive hard. The West is currently doing this. Fight, snatch, win by any means. Earn more wealth, more power. This is what politicians everywhere are doing. If you want happiness, the economy must grow, productivity must increase. That's what scientists say. They claim just a little more technology and heaven will be established. And what does your religion say? They say nothing different. They say, desire can be satisfied, but not in this life, in the afterlife. That's a very minor difference between materialists and hypocrites. For the Buddha, both are materialists, and for me, both are also materialists. The hypocrites and the atheists are birds of a feather. There is no difference at all. Their attitudes and approaches are exactly the same. The Buddha said, "Desire cannot be satisfied." He is holy in that sense. You must understand the nature of desire. It cannot be satisfied here or anywhere else. That has not happened and cannot happen because it contradicts the very essence of desire. What is desire? Have you ever observed your greedy mind? Have you reflected on it? What is desire? You want to buy a house, so you work hard for it. You sacrifice your whole life for it. Are you satisfied once you have the house? Once you have it, suddenly you need many other things. Then you want a bigger house. You want to be loved, and when you are loved, you want someone else. That is the nature of desire. It is always ahead of you. Desire belongs to the future. Desire is a hope. Desire can never be satisfied because its nature is a projection into the future. It always lies just over the horizon that you cannot chase. Each time you move forward, it recedes, and the distance between it and you does not change. When you have 10,000, you will want 20,000. When you have 20,000, you will want 40,000. The gap does not change. Regardless of what you have, desire always hovers ahead. The Buddha said, "Abandon hope, eliminate desire." When there is no more hope and desire, you are thrown back into the present. When you no longer desire anything, you will be satisfied, because you are no longer deceived by desire. So, when the Buddha says there is no difference between the hypocrites and the materialists, and he infuriated the Brahmins, they had never been so enraged before. They tried to eradicate his teaching in India, and they succeeded. Buddhism emerged in India, but vanished from India, because Hinduism is one of the most materialistic religions in the world. Open the Vedas and you will see prayers, rituals, sacrifices, all asking from one God to another. Every ritual comes from desire. Grant us more, even more. Give us a good harvest, favorable winds, successful work, abundant health, a long life. The Vedas are essentially just magnified desires, and sometimes quite malevolent. They contain not only supplications, but also curses towards enemies, such as, "May my cows be plentiful in milk, and may that wretch's cows die or yield no milk." What kind of religion is this? It's even absurd to call it a religion. If this is the righteous path, what then is the wrong one? Buddha studied with many spiritual teachers while seeking enlightenment, but each time he left empty-handed because he knew none understood the nature of desire. These same individuals also harbored plenty of desires. Of course, their desires were projected far into the future, into the next life, but the object of desire was the same. The only difference was the timeline. Some desired things in this life, others desired things pertaining to the afterlife. But what's the difference? There is none. Their desires are the same. Desire is desire. Buddha studied with many spiritual teachers, but each time he was disappointed. He never met a truly holy person, only hypocrites. These were people who tortured themselves. Some fasted for months, others stood for years, some never slept, and they became living skeletons. You wouldn't call them hypocrites or ordinary people. But if you looked into their minds and asked, why the fasting? Why the extreme effort? They would reply that it was to ascend to heaven, to reach paradise, to receive eternal rewards after death. That is desire. They all spoke alike. Everything is impermanent. This life is just an illusion. Whatever you gain, eventually death takes it all. So why strive? This life will not last forever. Therefore we seek what is eternal, immortal. We want absolute satisfaction. Only fools seek glory and riches in this life, because in the end, you end up with nothing. You work hard, but what can you take with you when you die? We seek a treasure that we can take with us, which will not perish, that even death cannot steal. Would you call these people holy? They seem worse than ordinary people. They are more materialistic than the materialists. Of course, they cleverly disguise their greed. Their greed appears transcendent, but it's very deceitful. It's like sticking flowers on a pile of dung. The dung is still dung. The flowers only deceive the foolish. The Buddha was not deceived. He saw everything. He saw their greed. If you still have desires, you are mundane and materialistic. Thus, he did not teach about heaven. He did not believe in any heaven. Not that he did not believe in bliss, no. He believed in bliss, but it is not a belief. When all heavens are gone, when all desires have vanished, bliss bursts forth from the deepest core of your being. It demands nothing. No need for virtues, no need for asceticism, no need for offerings, just understanding is enough. Chapter 4. The issue Soul, God and Self. The third aspect is that the Buddha did not believe in the soul, did not believe in God, did not believe in heaven. This seems challenging. We might accept there is no God since no one has ever seen him. It's quite possible that he is just a projection. We might also accept there is no heaven, as it could merely be an unfulfilled desire of ours. But no soul. Then there's nothing for you to cling to. No soul? Then what is the purpose of human life? If there is no soul, if death is the end, then all effort is in vain. What's the point of meditation? What use is prayer? The Buddha stated that the idea of the self, of the soul, has been misunderstood. You exist, but you do not have a self. You exist, but are not separate from the universe. Separation forms the basis of the self-concept. If I am separate from you, I have a self. If you are separate from me, you have a soul. The Buddha said, existence is one. There are no boundaries. No one is separate from another. We live in an ocean of consciousness. We are one consciousness, but are deluded by the separation of our bodies, deceived by the boundaries of our minds. And because of the body and the mind, and because of the identification with the body and the mind, we think we are separate. We think we have individual selves. The ego thus exists. For instance, look at a map. You will see America. But on the ground, there is no America. It's only on the maps of politicians. On a map, North America and South America are separate, but deep below the ocean, there's only one Earth. All continents are connected. They are just one Earth. We are only separate on the surface. The deeper you go, the more the separation fades. When you reach the core of your being, suddenly it becomes universal. There is no self, no soul. The Buddha was a realist. The Buddha had no beliefs about God, the soul, or paradises. What then did he teach? He taught a way of life, not a belief system. His method was very scientific, based on experience, on practicality. He was not a philosopher, not a metaphysician. He was a realist. The Buddha said, you can change your life without needing to rely on beliefs. Indeed, those beliefs are obstacles to change. The first step is to abandon beliefs, metaphysics, doctrines. Start from zero with no philosophy, no ideology. Start with emptiness. That's the only way to reach the truth. I have heard, a traveler opened a Bible placed by the Gideons in a hotel room. On the first page was printed, if you are sick, read Psalm 18. If your family is in discord, read Psalm 45. If you feel alone, read Psalm 92. The person felt lonely and so opened to Psalm 92 and read. After finishing, they saw below, if you still feel lonely, please call 888-1234 and ask to speak to Nani. If you read your holy book carefully, you'll find the footnotes more intriguing. Sometimes they are not clear, but if you pay attention, you will find the appropriate footnote. The Buddha said all your scriptures are just desires, instincts, greed, lust, anger of yours. They are just creations of your mind, so they must bear the traces of the mind. Scriptures are man-made. Hence all religions try to prove that their scripture is not a product of man. Christians say God authored the Bible. The 10 Commandments were directly given to Moses by God. The New Testament is the direct message of the Son, the only Son of God. It is not man-made. It was divinely revealed. Hindus also say the Vedas are not a product of man. And the story repeats. Muslims say the Quran was read to Muhammad by God. Why do all religions say their scripture is from God, but those of other religions are not? Muslims do not accept the Vedas as from God. Hindus do not accept the Quran. Why is that? Because they know anything man-made will bear the marks of the mind, of desires. Buddha taught that all scriptures are man-made. He wasn't a fanatic, Nor did he identify with any nationality, race, religion, or group. He was simply a beacon of his own light, and his teachings were the purest messages of truth. Here's a story a friend once shared with me. During a period of holy war, followers in Ireland asked their religious leader to select a site for his future tomb, as he might be killed at any moment. 3 locations were proposed, and he chose the least expensive one against the council's preference. When asked why he chose such a modest place rather than the 2 picturesque locations, he replied, "Dear friends, I appreciate your generosity, but I will not lie there for more than 3 days, so why waste it?" The implication here is akin to the Christian belief that Christ died and resurrected after 3 days. He insinuated he had the same divine power. Such outlandish notions have no place with Buddha, who would hesitate just as Laozi would. Only these 2 figures are known for their reluctance. Sometimes their hesitation may not leave a strong impression on you. In a world full of confusion, you might seek someone with absolute confidence for reassurance. Hence, fanatics who may have little to say but pound the table emphatically and shout loudly seem knowledgeable. They're so certain that they create a feeling of certainty, which is what many troubled people desperately need. Meeting a Buddha might not capture your attention, as he doesn't make loud proclamations or display certainty because he knows more profoundly than anyone that life cannot be summarized in simple statements. No statement can wholly encapsulate truth. Everything is relative. Buddha and Mahavira, the 2 most renowned sages of India, deeply understood the law of relativity, something Einstein only discovered in modern times and introduced to science. Science used to be certain in a dogmatic, absolute way. With relativity, science has become more humble and honest. Classical physics suggested that knowing initial conditions could predict the universe's state at any time. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle countered that it's impossible to know both the position and velocity of a particle at the same time. If you know one, you can't accurately know the other. The more ignorant, the more dogmatic. In India, Buddha and Mahavira introduced the concept of relativity to religion, stating that truth cannot be fully expressed, that absolute declarations are impossible, and at best, we can only hint at it. Any direct pointing is impossible because of the immense and expansive nature of truth. Hence, a truly enlightened person must naturally hesitate. This hesitation is a sign of profound awareness. Unfortunately, the more ignorant are often the most dogmatic. This is one of humanity's sad truths. The foolish are certain, while the wise hesitate. To truly understand Buddha, you must be alert and open to his teachings. He doesn't present truth on a grand scale, but offers guidance and suggestions. And even this is challenging enough. I've mentioned before, Buddha is practical. He seldom discusses metaphysical issues and approaches matters directly and simply. Sometimes his words may not seem profound, but if understood, they are incredibly profound. He doesn't beat around the bush or make grandiose statements. I heard about a young woman, just in her 20s, engaged to a rising star at a famous company. Everyone thought they were a perfect match, but the real problem was in their intimate life. Before their honeymoon even started, she complained to her friends, "He's a marketing expert, so every night he sits by the bed talking about how wonderful it's going to be." But it never happens. Buddha doesn't need to prepare or advertise what he's about to say. He speaks what needs to be said and moves on. He says, "Driven by selfish desires, people pursue fame and wealth, but ultimately they waste years. If you're engrossed in worldly fame and forget the spiritual path, you've gone astray, wasting your efforts uselessly. It's like incense. No matter how fragrant, it will be consumed by its own fire." A simple and practical teaching. Driven by selfish desires, people chase after fame and wealth. In common language, a desire is considered selfish if it harms others, and you don't care about them. Even if it harms others, you do everything to satisfy that desire. You are said to be selfish if you only care about yourself. But when Buddha speaks of selfish desires, he means if a desire is based on the notion of a soul, it's selfish. For example, if you donate millions to build hospitals, schools, or provide food and medicine to the poor, no one would call you selfish. But Buddha would say it's selfish if motivated by the soul. If you think giving so much money will earn you merit and heavenly rewards, that's a selfish desire. It harms no one, and in fact, you are appreciated by everyone. You are seen as a philanthropist, a virtuous, holy, compassionate person. But Buddha would judge whether a desire is selfish based on its motive. If you give without any motive, it's not selfish. If there's a motive behind it, whether you're conscious of it or not, that you'll be rewarded in this life or the next, it's selfish. Anything driven by the ego is selfish. If you meditate to achieve enlightenment, that's a selfish desire. Buddha often told his disciples, whenever you meditate, after meditating, give back what you've received, return it to the universe. If you feel blissful, direct it towards the universe and don't keep it as a treasure. If you feel happy, share it immediately. Don't cling to it, or else your meditation is just an act of the ego. The ultimate goal of meditation is to discard the ego, the self. That is the disappearance of the self. Buddha said, driven by selfish desires, people chase after fame and wealth. But once they achieve it, they have wasted many years. You might have fame, renown, power, and be respected by everyone. But what are you really doing? Are you aware of your actions? You've missed the opportunity to chase after utterly futile things. You're collecting garbage, wasting time and energy. He said, if you're engrossed in worldly fame and forget the spiritual path, you've gone astray. He calls his path the way. Chapter 5. There is no death. The Buddha taught not to worry about the outcome, for it will happen on its own. All you need to do is follow the path that unfolds. You don't even need a reason to seek the outcome, as the joy found in meditation, prayer, and giving is enough. You practice the path simply because you enjoy it, not for any merit. And you shouldn't turn it into a commercial exchange. Time flies like an arrow. Each moment that passes will never return. The Buddha said, do not waste time on foolish pursuits. Fame is foolish, meaningless. Even if the whole world knows you, it won't make you richer. How could it make you happier? How could it make you smarter, more aware, more vigilant, more alive? Since you do not cultivate your character, he said, you have strayed and you waste your efforts in vain. It's like burning incense. No matter how fragrant, it will be consumed by its own fire. Life is like that. Every minute that passes is burnt away. You are always on the funeral pyre because with every moment death comes closer, and with every minute you become less alive. Therefore, before this opportunity passes, the Buddha said, reach the state of no self. Then there will be no death, there will be no suffering. If so, you will not need fame, power, or reputation. In fact, the more empty you are inside, the more you chase after fame, because it helps you fill that void. The more you lack within, the more you pursue wealth, because it helps you forget that poverty. I often see that when people lack love, they eat like pigs. Whenever they argue with a loved one, whenever they are not loved or cannot love, they eat all day not knowing whether the food tastes good or not. Why is that? Why do they need to eat? Because they feel lonely, and that emptiness frightens them. If you are happy within, you won't care about fame. Only the unhappy seek glory. If you know who you are, why does it matter if others know you? But if you do not know who you are, you will want others to recognize you. You will collect opinions from others, what they think about you. And from those opinions you create an image. Yes, that's me. People say I'm smart, so I must be smart. You're not quite sure, but if you truly knew, why would you depend on others' opinions? When you look into others' eyes, you see your own reflection. You do not see yourself. So you beg, tell me who I am. Tell me I am beautiful, that I am charming, that I am graceful. Do you see your begging? Talk about my body, my mind, my understanding. Please give me a few words. You will grasp at others' opinions. If the opinion is not good, you will get angry. That person tarnishes your beautiful image if they think poorly of you. If the opinion is good, that person enhances that image, and you feel even more pleased. You rejoice when someone applauds. Why? Because you do not know who you are, you must search. You ask others, who am I? Tell me. So you rely on others. Ironically, they do not know who they are either, beggars seeking from one another. They also seek you for validation. It's a mutual deception. A man meets a woman and says, "You are so beautiful, so charming." And she responds, "I have never met anyone as handsome as you." That is mutual deception. They might call it love, but it's just mutual deceit. Both want a certain quality, and both satisfy each other. Everything is fine until one of them tires and does not want to play the deceitful game anymore. Then the honeymoon is over, and they talk about marriage. Then the harmony dissipates. The husband thinks, "I was under a spell, bewitched." The wife thinks, "I was deceived by him." No one deceives you except when you are ready to be deceived. No one deceives anyone if they are not ready, waiting to be deceived. You cannot deceive someone who knows who they are. They will laugh at your opinion. They will say, "Do not waste time unnecessarily. I already know who I am. Say what you want, but please do not worry about me. I know who I am." When the inner self is fulfilled, you will not chase after luxuries, nor pursue power. Psychologists observe that when people feel powerless, they seek symbols of desire to compensate. When feeling powerless, one might want a beautiful car to compensate for that loss. He wants the best car on earth. His potency has waned, so he replaces it with something else. He feels exhilarated as the car speeds, as if in the arms of a lover. Speed gives him power. He identifies with the car. Psychologists have observed for years that those with an inferiority complex always have great ambitions. Indeed, no one plunges into politics unless they are full of complexes. Politicians are typically people with complexes. They want to prove their superiority because they cannot live with the feeling of inferiority. What I am saying is, what you lack inside you will gather from the outside to compensate. If there is no lack within you, you will relax in your bliss. Only then can you see your true beauty. Only then can you truly know who you are. The Buddha said, "People cling blindly to material wealth and selfish desires, so much so that they sacrifice their whole lives for them. They are like children trying to lick honey off a knife blade. The honey cannot satisfy them, but they can cut their tongues on the blade. Your desires cannot be satisfied in this realm. This is a world of illusions. Nothing can fulfill you because only reality can satisfy. Don't you see? When you dream, you may eat all you want from the fridge. Fortunately, it does not disturb your sleep. Otherwise, hunger would keep you awake. The dream compensates for what you lack and allows you to sleep. You think, "I am full now." You have deceived your body. The dream is a deceiver. When you wake, you're still hungry because a feast in a dream is as good as fasting. A feast and fasting are the same in dreams, for dreams are not real. They cannot truly satisfy. To quench thirst, you need real water. Only reality can truly satisfy. The Buddha said you always create opportunities to harm yourself, but you cannot be truly fulfilled in this life. Occasionally, you might taste a few sweet drops, sweet yet dangerous and never satisfying. And those drops of honey are smeared on a knife's edge. You could easily cut your tongue. Look at the elderly. You will see they are covered in scars. Their beings are nothing but wounds and sores. When a person dies, you see no smile on their face, only the decay of their injuries. If someone has lived not being deceived by dreams and false desires growing older, they become more innocent. In death, they are even more beautiful. Sometimes you meet an old person who looks more beautiful in old age than when they were young. Bow to them. They have lived a true life, a life full of inner richness. Because if you live truly as you age, you become more magnificent, and a radiant grace surrounds you. An aura appears around you, and you become a temple of the eternal, the absolute. This is as it should be, for life is an evolution. If you age and become uglier, it proves you have licked honey from many blades. You have been wounded often. Old age becomes a dry, tedious affair, and few can close their eyes in peace, because seldom do people really live. If one truly lives, like a candle burning at both ends, their death is a grand spectacle, a sublime beauty. You will see their life shine brightest at death. In their final moments, they become a powerful flame. The essence of their being is concentrated in that moment. A light emanates from their essence. Before they depart forever, they leave a mark on the world. This happened when the Buddha entered nirvana. It also occurred with Mahavira at his death. We cannot forget them, not because they wielded power, they were nobodies in terms of historical impact, but we cannot forget them. Historically, they did nothing. We could erase them from history without any loss. Indeed, they did not exist for written history. They stood alongside history, yet we cannot forget them. In their final moments, they left a legacy for humanity. Their ultimate radiance showed us our own limitless potential. Conclusion: seeing and believing. The Buddha repeatedly told his disciples, "Ehipassiko, come and see." They were thinkers with a scientific mindset. Buddhism is the most scientifically compatible religion in the world. Therefore, as Buddhism grows in popularity, as humanity becomes more enlightened, the Buddha becomes increasingly significant. It must be so. As more people understand science, he becomes more appealing to them because he resonates with scientific minds. He often said, "What I teach can be practiced, and I do not say, believe this, but rather, test what I say, experience it. Do not just believe." Beyond that, there is nothing that needs to be believed.